Because the budget was
It
short?
burned out.
There were some we caught one.
Oh,
Yes, you did.
Wait,
come on.
You got a new car.
it's not a Tesla car, is it? Well,
We're on, John.
so you took them all out? Wait, you took them all out?
Hey,
All of them, we took them all out.
Timex.
Huh? Are you replacing better?
50, 60 years old, we just ordered 6 more.
Okay, that's right.
Okay, we're gonna put a clock
Yeah,
there.
we're getting clocks.
Yeah, that makes
Those are
sense.
plug-in clocks. That's all.
Yeah, the old fire department here.
Does it work for
What, the fire department, the clocks are burning at the high school?
the PCP?
Oh, they. Okay, let's get started. Yeah, we are. Thank you, Sandy. Okay, I'd like to bring the microphone closer here. I'd like to call our meeting to order. Today is April 9th, 2025. Town of Southington Board of Finance meeting, and we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we'll do the roll call, please.
Mr. Lebenik?
Here.
Mr. Pocock?
Not here.
I hear a door.
He may come, but at this very
Mr.
moment.
Bedoin?
Here.
Here he is.
Oh, here's, good. Yes, Mr. Pocock, yes.
Ms. Mazzarella?
On the phone?
Mr. Stanforth?
No.
Chair Larry?
Here. We have a quorum. Okay. Couple items. Want to approve the minutes of our March 26th meeting, so I'll ask for a motion for that, and then we'll get into any corrections. We have a second? For the minutes.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Any changes to the minutes, any corrections? This is March 26th. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Candace, you're an aye, okay. Carries, 5-0. Okay, our regular assessment. So let's look at revenues. How are we doing on revenues? Go down in my packet.
Our actual revenue is 1.8 million over what was budgeted through March.
See it? I gotta hunt it down. So 1.8 million ahead,
Correct.
and that's with the 800,000 grant we didn't get.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any questions on revenue? Any expenditure variances we're aware of so far in the year?
No, nothing to report at this time.
Yeah, we know about the contingency. So we'll look at the contingency.
So approved to date by the Board of Finance is 530,607. There are no transfers from contingency to be approved on tonight's agenda. The remaining budget in the contingency account is 544,393.
Seems like we're okay. Capital projects we'll do next quarter. And any questions on any of that from any member? Okay, we'll go to subcommittee reports, financial aspects, sewer committee. Mr. Stanforth, he's not here. Public Works.
Couple of things, Mr. And
Didn't we post the paving order? We had an older one up, we were going to put a newer one up?
Everyone that staff presented to the Public Works Committee on, I believe, Mr. Polcock, in February possibly?
Yes.
And then there was a 30-day, over 30, almost 45-day public comment period, and they approved the final list to recommend to town staff, last Wednesday. That one.
Has been really heavy down there.
Want to roll right into open space, or is that all confidential?
That's all. Could address one thing, they.
Any questions on open space? Self-insurance.
So for self-insurance, we have our information through March, and our claims are under budget by 550,000. Good thing, we got 3 months left.
Okay. And probably no report on economic strike. No. And Chrissy, I do want to go back because I'm looking, I found my spot here. Cash, I see, is it 90 million invested short-term and 20 million invested long-term on the cash?
Yes, that's correct.
So we have 110 million invested, just because of timing.
Yes, that's correct.
When it comes in, when it goes out.
She gave it to us.
That's a nice report to have, though. And it looks like the 90 million's invested somewhere between 4.1 and 4.5%. And the longer term, the 20 million is invested at roughly 3.1%, 3.2%.
Yes.
So that's a good thing. I mean, only we're limited in what we can invest it in, because as we're a municipality, we can't play the market, so to speak. Okay. So investments. You want to talk about investments? I just talked about cash, but. You want to tell us about investments?
Yeah, we usually just review and review the interest rates, but the interest from last month versus this month, steady at the 4.1 to 5 for the short term.
I know we can't predict anything, right? The global economy is not one you want to try to predict now. So keeping it.
What makes you say that?
I've given up a house to the trade war.
Like today.
But that's a separate story. Okay. Fire Commission liaison reports. I guess we do have the chiefs here, and the chairman of the Fire Commission here. We can get into that discussion. And it looks like that's next on our agenda. And if I look ahead, there's only a few the administrative business items. So really the focus is relating to the fire department. And just to tee it up, when we were doing the budget, we were in this room the last couple of months. We had workshops, and last time we met, we approved the budget, and we had the word we're using is pull a few levers in the budget to make it work. It came to us at 7.6%, and we had to try to get it to a place where we could recommend it to town council, and we ended up at a place at 4.27%. To get there, we had to do a few things. And every time you do a few things, you take on a few risks. So what we did was we increased the budget for revenue, because if we got more revenue, we need less tax revenue. Well, when you do that, you gotta, hope you got it right, because you don't want to miss on revenue. So we raised the amount we were told we were going to get on revenue, went up with that. And we also made some, reduced the increase for Board of Ed, and we reduced the increase for general government. In doing so, you drain the pond, and there's a few stumps and rocks that stick out. And one of them that was sticking out was, what about the fire department overtime? We budget it, and it seems like a couple of things could happen, and the budget is blown. So when we did all this, we said, you know what, we ought to have the fire leadership come in. So the commission and the management, and just talk a little bit about what we think for this 25-26 budget. Right now, as it stands, the salary line is at 3.9 million, and the overtime line is at 668,000, or 17%. And that's where it is, that's what we budgeted for, and that's what we could pay. We did put our contingency in like we normally do, and that's the unbudgeted item. It's an item without specificity. We put it in there for something that comes up during the year. Typically, it's some legal fees, more retirements than we budgeted for, you got to pay people out, or it's snow and ice related because our storms are changing their nature. They're not 5 big short storms, they're multiple day lingering storms. Okay, that usually comes after contingency. This year, we reached into contingency a lot for fire overtime. So that's part of where, the background of where we're coming from, and we're trying just to manage the numbers. So we're just trying to manage a budget. So we appreciate every employee, every firefighter, every leader, anywhere in the town, but this budget has a little risk in it, and some of us saw it as, what if this fire overtime should exceed the 667 that's budgeted? Is that a soft number, a hard number, a realistic number? What factors could blow it, make it not enough? And if those factors were to occur, what levers could the fire department pull to try and put the brakes on it? And that's really what we want to learn. Like, what's variable? What can you do? What's contractual? We're just stuck with it. How do we get some assurances around the 667 being the right number? And not to compare one to the other, but you go to police and they have the similar thing where somebody's out, a shift crosses a holiday, training, they're at 7%. They have a $560,000 overtime on 7.8 million. Fire has a $668,000 overtime on 3.9 million. Can't compare that. There's certainly a different lay. And we did approve the budget, so there's no criticism of what we approved. The thing is, how do we go forward? What can we do if we find that this coming year is a runaway year on overtime? Are there levers that could be pulled, changes that could be made, something leadership could do to say, whoa, we're going to exceed overtime? And I'll leave it to you. I think I said enough to frame it up. But, and again, there's no criticism. It's just,
No.
how do we manage this thing?
So thank you for the opportunity. I will say, as the chair and I have talked multiple times, this year has been a perfect storm. It's the only way I can describe it as, in terms of early retirements, additional retirements based off the MERS changes, long-term injury, long-term comp, and contractual language. First and foremost, we started off with this year's budget at $628,000. I'm sorry, 628,002, I think is actually the number. I will say the projection right now between tapping into the contingency, we've tapped into the contingency once for 105, and that was based off the contractual piece. We'll get into that. My projection right now is 846,500. It's unprecedented in the last 4 or 5 years. We're looking at 17, 18, 19 numbers, numbers I'm not happy with at all. You look at 19, 20, in 2021 under Chief Butler and Paul, and 22, 23, and 23, 24 under both Chief Paul and myself, we were under budget on overtime each and every year, based on levers that we pulled. Just to give you some rough numbers, as of the transfer that's on your agenda for tonight, again, that's an internal transfer, pulling money out of our own accounts. We will be running hand to mouth for the rest of the year, but it's the most prudent decision I can make, or we can make, managerial. That way we don't come after that contingency item, and we'll just have to manage internally with those numbers. We pulled 105 out of 1,000 out of contingency. Again, that was for the wage impact off the retro piece, the arbitrated salary.
planned, right? That was
we planned-ish.
couldn't really plan it. We didn't know the exact number, but we prepared
That is
for it.
correct. We've done it in on transfer already at $55,000 for out of internal transfers as well. And tonight you're looking at just over 80,400 internal department transfers for about $240,000. Year to date, the drivers on that long-term workers' comp replacement, we've had an individual out since August 19th, August 5th, just about there, 1,620 hours approximately. A year to date, that's $126,000 worth of replacement. Contract language that was awarded states that if somebody is out for more than one shift, they will be automatically replaced.
Is he okay? Is he? gonna
He's
be able to
okay.
return to duty?
He'll should be cleared to the 23rd or the 28th of this month. He's been eager to return. He's been eager to return since the day he went out. Fantastic employee. All our employees are fantastic, but he's eager to return. So there's one significant driver. We've had some long-term sick replacement. Again, more than one shift per contract language, they have to be replaced. Had an individual that broke his leg. He was out for 6 weeks. Maternity leave, et cetera. That drove another $30,000. And we had training replacement. People are out for training for obviously more than one shift. Again, contractual language, we have to replace them. The biggest driver on that is the two individual. We brought in 2 individuals early, as you know, to help offset the retirements. However, we had an early retirement, so I pushed the retirement up early. Then I had a resignation, so now I'm replacing those 2 individuals on training replacement as well, to the tune of $82,000. That gets us to $236,000. So those are our numbers. I don't want to use the word confident. With the transfer approved tonight, we should be flush, minus another anomaly, minus another long-term injury, minus a comp problem, et cetera. We've already planned for the 2 retirements that are coming in June, so that's taken care of. One of the big things we're doing now is with those retirements coming in June and the potential for the additional firefighter in the budget, thank you very much, as long as that holds, we are working on a lateral process. That lateral process is going to save us about $150,000 in both overtime and training costs. So
Really?
Yes.
How do you come up with that math? Just
80 to 50 per person to go to the academy for the tuition for 15 weeks, and then 15 weeks of replacement overtime.
so when okay, but you're saying there's a hole in the roster. Somebody retired, leaving a hole in your roster.
Yes,
Your new hire, if it was a new entrant to the fire service, the new hire would be in the academy, and the hole still exists in the roster. And the
Correct.
hole needs to be filled with overtime.
correct.
Okay,
At
Now-
about $40,000 per person
okay. Okay. it
for that
is what it
vacancy.
is.
Yeah,
But the +1, the one that we're going to hire if it stays in the budget, if it makes it through town council, it's in here at the moment, right? It's in here at the moment. Because we gave him a generic cut. That's why I looked at him, because we said, he has to find it.
and I offered cuts, and he was gracious enough to.
But it's better to do that than to think that we know best, and better to do it through management. Anyway, forget that. So the +1 that we're going to hire,
Yes,
let's assume right this moment that that +1 is a brand-new entrant to the fire service, somebody who's untrained, comes in from the outside.
Yes,
Or just assume. When that person comes in, there is no hole in the roster for that person. We just created it.
correct.
Does that person have to be backfilled?
He does not.
Does
No-
not.
Not in my opinion, no.
But what's the contract? No.
Contract says long-term replacement. If he's on the books, there'd be a little nuance there. I think there's
But I'm
some,
thinking like common sense, you haven't slotted him in the roster, there's no hole in the roster, so he could spend 2 years in the fire academy if he wanted
Let's
to.
hope
There's
not.
no backfilling.
so,
Yeah, no, but you know what I mean?
if he is, we shouldn't have hired that individual.
No, I'm just trying to
So
make
yeah,
sense.
no, I agree with you. That person, and we did it before when we brought on the safer firefighters. They did not count to our staffing level until after they graduated the academy, and that would be the play with that.
Now, if you get this +1, let's assume it holds through town council, comes back, and come July 1, it's approved. We could even, we've done this before for police and different people. They say, oh, the academy cycle is such, we want to start interviewing sooner. Soon as we know that it's been approved by town council, we could negotiate when we start the process to hire and everything else. We could accelerate it if there's a reason to do that, timing-wise, or you would know better than I.
Yes,
But this person, one person comes on, there's no home for this one person in the roster. You're still filled to the same footprint, you're filled, you hire your two, let's call them your laterals that you're seeking to hire.
correct.
Your roster's full, and you have this extra firefighter.
Yes.
What do you do with them? I mean, what
I
do
would-
you do with them in terms of my overtime?
So
What
in
do you-
terms of the overtime, what we do with them is, he starts July 1, he or
Yeah.
she, sorry, they start July 1. Academy starts the end of August. If they're Fire 1, Fire 2 certified, they'd be on the line, and we could use them to fill holes after about,
But you don't have to declare to them and say, you're on, whatever it is, shift or squad D, and.
I would, and that management right, I could assign them to one shift, one shift heavy for a
Or you
certain
can
period
say,
of
I'm going
time.
to tell you week to week.
Or I could-
It's a little bit of a bounce.
I wouldn't do week to week, but I more than likely would assign them to days if I know they're going to the academy, because there would be academy's a daytime position. And then we'd put them on training leave, knowing that this person is used to absorb a vacancy that occurs. We wouldn't replace them for the time in the academy. So our goal, the commission's goal right now, is the two vacancies that we have now is, we conducted interviews yesterday. We made one appointment, we're gonna make another, to get our two vacancies filled right away, to absorb the gaps, absorb a training gap for the individuals, training individual that's out for training. You told me to talk slow, I know. And one that for the long-term comp injury until he comes back, to try and absorb some of that overtime.
But the +1,
The +1 we're going to do as another lateral, most likely,
Okay.
who's already certified, or has already gone through the fire academy. So he'd instantly go to, call it the Monday through Friday daytime shift. And so the first person out on that Monday through Friday daytime shift, we wouldn't replace. So we'd be absorbing that overtime. It'd be a cost savings on that
so
position.
he'd essentially be the fourth man on the truck that we're looking for.
Correct, yes. For 8 to 9 hours a day.
And then if he gets, the SAFER grant comes through, we now have 4.
Yes, we'd have
So
4.
now
Correct,
we're in what you would claim to be a better place.
absolutely.
We have 4 in the truck, which is safe, and it means that well, here comes a contract question. If number 4, somebody calls out, do we replace or do we run with 3 on a truck?
The conversations I've had, and again, we're about to go into negotiations, so some of this will become quiet, as you know. The conversations I've had with both management as well as the union is, if they can maintain 3 on the truck with the 4th, they understand the 4th is not going to be replaced. And that would be the goal. If we get
Because you're maintaining 3 on a truck now.
3 to 2. We have 3 on the truck now. We have 3 on 2 of the trucks. The one up north 24/7, the one down south, Monday through Friday days. The truck and headquarters can go down to 3, can go down to 2 based on contract language. So I've already talked to the town manager as well as the commission in terms of trying to clarify that language. It's a little ambiguous.
Is a truck with 2 useless until another truck gets there?
Primarily, they can do some initial baseline sizes, assessment and size up, but in terms of physical operations, yeah, there's very limited operational capability that they
One
have.
stays with the truck and that leaves
That leaves an
another one
individual
to hook
to
up hoses or whatever, but
hook up hoses,
But they can't go in because that would be both of them in, nobody outside.
correct.
So they're dependent on
They're dependent
wherever
on
that second truck comes
second
from,
truck
from
or the third
volunteers
truck or-
from another one of your active
That is correct.
firehouses.
Correct.
Or you, right?
Or me,
From
but,
the
you know,
chiefs,
we.
three chiefs.
Three chiefs, but there's a point where we need to not necessarily take a step back, but have an overall operational overview of the incident. There's been many NIOSH line of duty reports that say one of the contributing factors to line of duty is lack of situational awareness, lack of an incident command presence. I have been in a position, both as assistant chief and chief, where I insert myself into operations, and that's not my role. My role is to support the individual manage, as we were talking earlier, not operate the system. And so it's our roles to fill in incident command gaps, not necessarily be inside the building. There are times, as you know, you've seen this individual come in to meetings.
Yeah, he came to the meeting all
All
charred up
covered
and
in,
drinking
covered in
water.
soot. There are times where that happens, yes. But it's few and far between at this point in time. So I will say, we're looking historically at that last pay period, because of that comp and training replacement, our overtime this last pay period was $29,000. That's about the average the town manager and I have been seeing. You take out that training and comp replacement, that's 18,000. We would have been at 11. This same time period last year, we were at 20. So we're actually, without those anomalies and those factors, we'd actually be under last year's budget at this point in time, so. I'll bring another concern to you if you'd like.
What?
I'll bring another concern to you if you want agita.
Well.
We're talking about money in overtime, so.
The real thing we're looking at, though, are when you put together a budget and you squeeze it, like we did.
Yes.
We look for risks.
Yeah.
Or.
And that's a risk. Can I assure you that someone is not going to get injured or be out for 6 months? I cannot.
I know that.
Do we budget accordingly to earn time, estimated use of sick time, estimated use of, family, I don't want to call it FMLA time, but time off for maternity leave, et cetera, like that. Some of those anomalies, yes, we do budget for that, but I don't budget for someone being out for 9
Well,
months.
I don't want to talk about specifics, like certain levers you can pull, but may I ask on behalf of the board that you go back and just come up with levers you would pull if you feel we're going to exceed? There are things that maybe, you're still working within the contract, but there are things you can do.
Yep.
Somehow, if we describe any of them here, the world will say, oh, they said it to do this and that. I don't want to get into solutioning, but can you at least have levers to say, if we're approaching, or we think we're going to exceed the 667, I'm going to do A or B or C.
And
Everybody kind of knows at some point what those are.
yes, there are levels that we could pull. We had the discussions when we knew this storm was occurring with the comp and all of a sudden the training replacement as well. Those were discussed, openly. We discussed them with the board in terms of certain operational capabilities we could employ. There was discussion that could be seen as bargaining in bad faith based off the contract language. But managerial rights and operationally, readjusting deployment strategies and stuff like that is something that's always on the table in order to try and manage this. But it was just not a decision that was acted upon this most recently, so.
And I know you're always working on strategy with the commission. I'll ask the chair in a minute, but you're always working on some strategies, like some things in the contract that just don't make sense. And you may want to put them on the table for discussion when you negotiate the contract,
Yes,
or they need a little tweaking or a little clarity.
yes, absolutely. Between myself,
I
the
don't know what
chair,
they are, but I'm sure the commission,
the commission, the town manager, we've had our discussions in terms of some cost savings measures and things to give us, a little bit more leverage without making it look punitive to the employees, so.
so I think, again, the challenge for us is to fund the fire service, right? We want to fund it, and it's what, $6 million a year, fund it, but not have it come back and bite us.
No, and that comes back down to the staffing piece that we continue to talk about. We've been talking about it for years, and I've preached it to you before. The more depth we have in the bench, the more ability we have to not replace the first 1, 2, 3, 4 individuals out, to stabilize it over time and bring it down to a reasonable number. I think it looks, more FTEs, again, cost, salary, benefits, et cetera, but that would stabilize the overtime piece, so.
When we had this conversation, I don't know specifically with fire, but certainly when we had it with police, they would come and they would say, you can't hire somebody and expect overtime to go down. All things being equal, if you hire somebody,
Takes about one,
overtime's, every person you hire has an inherent part of overtime
Correct.
in their compensation. They can't avoid and we can't avoid it. It's part of it, because they're going to cross a holiday, they're going to go to training, they're going to,
You need about,
else?
you need about 1.5 FTEs to absorb one individual's overtime that they make. So
but it's like the excessive overtime from your perfect storm. Somebody's out sick for a long time. The MERS came along and knocked out several people who would have otherwise maybe stayed or staggered their retirement.
Correct,
I
yes.
don't know.
Like I had a retirement that occurred last week that was 2 months in advance. It just caught me off guard, you know.
So those are different things. But every person you hire, nobody's ever going to get hired. There's not a firefighter or a policeman in town that can go a year without making overtime, even if they tried.
Unless
part of the-
unless they so choose, yeah, unless they
But
get
it's an
held over for a
inherent
shift
part
or
of the
training,
job.
yeah, it's an inherent part of the job for
They're
certain,
going to
some
hit
of
a
the
holiday,
mandatory.
they're going to hit a weekend,
Yeah.
they're going to hit,
And the holiday piece actually doesn't come out of the overtime line item, it actually comes out of the regular salary line
oh,
item.
it's built in the,
Built in the salary line item, yes, sir.
all right.
Yeah.
Anything, Mr. Chairman, anything to?
In terms of this coming year, we're not going to have the MERS situation. And we've done this lateral hiring to knock out the training overtime. And those are things that we were able to do now to kind of get us through next year. And then as we hire more, like you said, we're not going to completely eliminate overtime, but it'll certainly be more predictable. With the early retirements and the high amount of retirements because of the MERS, along with the long-term workman's comp cases, that's what led to this year. Next year, we don't see that, and we've done things like the lateral hiring to try to alleviate it. So other than that, the chief has really covered it. It's something we talk about every week. It's something we have our eye on. The contractual part of it is the challenge. So.
How about, not to get into it here, but just to make sure it's happening, is someone thinking out of the box, big picture? Like, is our firehouse in the right place? We have our company 3 and company 5 because we paved the cow paths. That happens to be there, and the other one happens to be on Clark Street where it is, right? 2 happens to be in Plantsville Center, kind of. They just happen to be there, and we happen to design around them because they're there. Has any big thinking occurred or is going to occur that maybe says, wait a second, maybe there's a solution here, maybe it costs money, capital, but is there a better answer? In the plan of conservation and development or whatever, would we put these things right back where they were in the same shape and form today if we had our money in the bank?
No, the chief is more qualified to answer that, and I'll.
As long
I'll
as
hand-
we're thinking.
Yeah, I'll hand it over to the
talking
chief,
about
but the chief and I have had multiple conversations about that, and we've also talked about it in open session with the commission. I'll let the chief, address your question.
Thank you, sir. Simply put, no. If you look at the location of fire headquarters, it's probably in one of the worst spots. It's centrally located, I'm not going to kid you, but it's in one of the worst spots, worst navigable areas on that curve of North Main Street. Decision was, and we have a representative, or a member here from past member Company 5. Decision for Company 5 when it was placed is because they had a strong volunteer force up there. They had a neighborhood. They saw a need when they built that station in that location. It suited the purpose then. Right now, that's in a FEMA flood zone. The building is now self-insured to the tune of, I think it's $500,000. If you look at our master plan, it shows our current station locations, our bleed maps, our average response times if stations are staffed. My recommendation would be to do a facility location study to see if the stations are in the right location. Should we move them? One of the things that came out of the master plan is Station 5 technically should be closer towards the 84 corridor. almost right about where 7-Eleven is now. Obviously, we know that land's no longer available. However, a facility proposal, station relocation study is probably not a bad idea.
Can we do that? Like, can we just look at the calls and?
We look at the calls, but when maybe we could try and leverage the new IT director as well to look at the bleed mapping, look at our response times. It's a lot of GIS, it's a lot of pulling data out of the PD's next dispatch system, as well as getting our information as well. I will say, I have researched it. I do have a proposal on it to the tune of about $32,000 to get that done. Some of it is in the master plan, that's why it's a little bit cheaper than it normally is. But it's something we can look at. It's something I've been looking at for the past 2 years, like, are these buildings in the right location? I'll step on the hornet's nest, Company 2, I love Company 2, I love the location of Plantsville, they are ingrained in that community. Would I ever want to move them? No, but is that building the right building in the right location based off its age, its infrastructure, and its ability? No, I really don't believe it is. But they're so ingrained in the community, so maybe it's not a relocation there, it's a relocation a little bit further, but then you have Company 3 a mile and a half down the road in Milldale. It's something to basically like you said, take a big picture look at it. Do we need 4 firehouses? Should we have 3? And if we have 3 and we put them in proper locations, but then you're looking at infrastructure costs, Obviously,
We
you
should
all.
at least have that look. I hate to see it come out in a plan, and somebody said, well, you paid for this plan, and now you're ignoring it, but at least we have we're thinking little picture,
Yes.
like get our washing machine, right? We're thinking a
Big
little
picture.
bit bigger, make sure our equipment is maintained, a little bit bigger, we jump into staffing, but I guess we got to look at all levels.
We do, and if you look at the developments coming in on the West Street corridor, you look at the Anthony properties that are coming in, proposed hotel that's probably coming in, everything that's coming in on the West Street corridor, for our resources to get up and over West Street is a challenge. Should we have a firehouse or relocate a firehouse to that corridor where it's going to be busier? Probably not a bad idea. Do I have that data in front of me? I do not. So, but it's definitely a big picture look. So.
Last thing for us, is there anything you guys want us to know? You said if the Board of Finance could only know this. Chief Lee, anything you're thinking of that you think we may not be aware of, or just say these guys don't get it? Anything you want to share with us? And we want to be always as collaborative as we can.
Well, sir, you just opened Pandora's box. We rely heavily on our volunteers. Those numbers are dwindling rapidly. Without the depth of having more personnel, we have no way to really minimize the impact of the overtime. And that's our biggest asset, is our people. Without them, we can't perform our jobs. When people ask for help, we're not there to help them. So unfortunately, as the chief said, we're in a perfect storm. So people is our answer at this point. We're struggling to keep our apparatus on the road now because we're trying to make these sacrifices to help cover these costs.
Is there any, when you deal with the volunteers, you're on the front line of the volunteers, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. When you're dealing with them, is there any way they can make a commitment to a certain time frame and say, we can cover all Monday nights and Thursday nights?
Which they currently do.
And do anything they want to do, but if they can make a commitment to a couple of spots.
Currently, they do commit to Monday nights. That's their training
And
night.
what's that, Monday night for a few hours or Monday night?
About 4 hours, from about 6 to about 10 p.m.
That's only a wee little piece.
Yes, sir?
But is there any way they could commit to, like if, I don't know, I don't want to use ourselves here, but if we were part of a volunteer company, we all got together and we said, okay, together, we're going to cover every week, Wednesday from 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. We're going to do it. And maybe that's all we can give, but we give it consistently with a commitment.
The problem is we cross into Department of Labor areas that
We do?
aren't, yeah.
We could, I know Company 2 has done in the past, they've had standby crews, they know who's going to, especially for the tanker, which is a specialized piece, they've identified individuals that are going to be around for the tanker based on their schedule. Company 1, obviously stationed up here, has done it as well. When we get into the aspect of, we want you to, or we're going to require you to, hey, you need to be available 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., now we start violating their bona fide volunteer status, because now we're dictating work hours. We can't dictate work hours for a volunteer. If you want to try and compensate them to a certain level, it's a specific certain level you can compensate them to, like we do a storm watch. If you went to an hourly rate, based off the FLSA and Department of Labor rules, then we're going to get ourselves into a pickle again. Are there options we could do? Could we leverage, we'd have to build the program up, I actually wrote a paper on it. Could we do live-in programs for colleges in the area, for like UNH as a fire science program? Could we bring in people to man the stations while they're in school type of thing with the provision of room and board? Yes, we could. Those are options that are very well played off in Maryland, Pennsylvania area, a couple places up here in Connecticut. There are bigger picture options to look at as well. Other options to look at is, I won't get into this forum yet, probably be more of a private conversation until we start building up on those ideas. I believe there are some other levers we could look at, but it'll be a managerial lift, not just for us, but for the town, in terms of trying to employ that. But trying to dictate their hours or require them to do hours. I will say, I was a volunteer on a volunteer ambulance, but I didn't get paid years ago. But I had to commit to a certain shift, and that was the requirement. Committing them to, because we're a combination department, having them commit to a shift in a certain amount of hours starts to violate their bona fide volunteer status, which would be a problem.
But you do have, irons in the fire. You're trying.
We have ideas that come across our desk every day. You can see our desks. But
It's there
so,
somewhere.
I mean, there's always options we're looking at. There's always best practices out there. We definitely reach outside the walls of Southington. I'm talking to colleagues in the state and talking to colleagues across the country as to what they do and how they handle it, and I've gotten ideas on how to manage it, or trying to manage the situation from people that come from 450-man paid departments of, hey, how about trying to do this, trying to do that type of thing. So, it's always good to get allies and confidants and bounce ideas off of, because I don't know all the answers. I'll be honest with you, so.
All right. Questions, just, thank you for having a candid conversation with us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for being here. And we'll move ahead with the public communications. Anybody from the public like to speak? Mr. Urso. It's okay.
I spoke at a town council meeting in 2012, and I said I would never speak again. But here I am. I've known these two guys a long time. I just met the chairman. Some of this may help. Fire department overtime, Board of Finance meetings, 2012, 2013. We've had fire department overtime problem for 12 years. Maybe we made budget by moving monies around, but we've had a fire department overtime. So we terminated a chief, and we made a nationwide search for a new chief. One of the excuses, and this is very important, I think, that nothing could be done about overtime was because it is a fire department contract issue. Everyone at the time, the Board of Finance, Board of Fire Commissioners, the town manager, and the town council said, this is a contract issue. Overtime. Nothing can be done about overtime. Contract issue. So we did a nationwide search for a new chief, and his first contract negotiation, and I was all excited, new chief, we're going to see what the problem is. So he had his first contract negotiation, best contract he ever negotiated. Why did we approve a contract that didn't reduce overtime? All of you, town council, Board of Finance, town manager, the chief is limited to the contract, and the Board of Fire Commissioners, it's still the same. So the chief that was terminated said, if you hire more men, you'll have more overtime. The chief, after the nationwide search, said, give me two more men, and I will reduce the overtime by 200,000. That chief did more harm for the volunteer firefighters in his short term more than anyone could imagine. He closed the firehouse on River Street and did enough damage to soon close another firehouse on Clark Street. The nationwide search chief then said, without any statistics or data, we need 24-hour coverage 7 days a week at Company 5. How many fire calls do we get at River Street? I was a volunteer there, and we only did our area, and we had 200 calls a year. We went to more Plainville fires than we went to Southington fires. perfect place for a volunteer house. The only justification that the new chief said was that the only justification I heard that the new chief said was there are trailer parks in the area. That's the justification to put $300,000 in payroll plus overtime, because that generated overtime. If one of them call out, they have to be replaced. So we signed the contract, and then we created more overtime at one station. I took all the criticism out of here, Commissioner. There's no criticism in here. It was 30 pages. So how many fire calls, and it looks like the chief is looking at that, how many fire calls on the River Street area? In the year 2024, there was not one trailer fire in the River Street area. I think there might have been one or two in the last 2 or 3 years. A trailer fire is a trailer fire. It's not as bad, except how close they are, as a house fire. So it doesn't just, a trailer park up there doesn't justify $300,000 in. I could throw a rock into Plainville. It also created more overtime. So the new chief created more overtime. And on top of that, now, River Street, after 3:30 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday, has to respond to Meriden Waterbury Turnpike for a dumpster fire, because they took those men out of North Main Street, put them up on River Street. Now there's a dumpster fire. The men from North Main and River Street go to the dumpster fire on Meriden Waterbury Turnpike. The decision by the nationwide search chief, who has been gone for a while, to put 3 career men on the River Street should be reviewed and justified with the number of incidents in the area. Look at how much money was put into that building in the past 10 years. When we complained about mice at the firehouse, they gave us mouse traps. When the career men moved in there, they spent I don't know how much money on exterminators. So what are the drivers of the overtime? I guess the chief does know. It's not structure fires. We had 24 structure fires. We had no building fires September and October, June, September, and October of 2024. So that's not the overtime issue. Weather, don't know. Replacement, I think, is what it is. Callback overtime. Is the overtime driver car accidents? I know on 84 they call in the paid men and the volunteers. And we've been on 84 192 times last year. So we have to identify what is driving overtime costs. Find out what the problem is before you can solve it. Remember, one chief said more men, more overtime. And another chief said, higher man, I'll reduce overtime. Okay, now company 3. Company 3, we need to hire 3 men for daytime coverage in the Clark Street station area. The justification, and a lot of people have heard this before, was that the justification I heard at a Board of Finance meeting from a previous town manager was the past 3 chiefs told me that I needed them. And they are free. They're free for 3 years. They're not 3 anymore. The 3 years are up. There's another $300,000 plus overtime, and you're only getting 8-hour coverage. So the staffing at 3 created more overtime. Same as River Street. Look at the number of incidents and see if we really need 3 men down there, 8 hours a day. Fire chiefs are supposed to ask for more men. I hope chief asks for more men every year. That's his job. I need more men, I need more men. Throw some numbers, and then management decides whether he really needs them or not, or we need to spend that money somewhere else. If you look at the data, I think you will see the majority of the calls are on days, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And in the area, most of the calls are in the area of the North Main Street station. Of the 20 structure fires in Southington in 2024, the furthest one away from the North Main Street station was 3.9 miles away on Mountain Pond Road. So the furthest structure fire away was only 4 miles from headquarters. So if you put everybody at North Main Street, they were only 3.9 miles away from, we did have a fire on Aircraft Road, which is Company 5 area, but the fire on Aircraft Road is only 2.3 miles away from North Main Street. So it wouldn't matter whether it came from 5 or not. So when I say look at the data, and this is very important, I do not suggest that we should hire a consulting team to look at the data. Please, please do not hire any more fire department consulting teams. Get some Southington folks together in a room, bring in a wheelbarrow, or better still, a truckload of common sense, and talk. There was some nice conversation here. I think they're working on something. Get more people involved. Get some common sense involved. One more thing, is the overtime issue a scheduling problem or a staffing problem? I have my thoughts. I attended the town council meeting at John Weichel Municipal Center when the discussion was no contract, and the room was filled over the capacity, I'm sure, with many firefighters from all over as far as Danbury. An over-capacity room filled with firefighters. Where was the fire marshal? Sarcasm. Outside the building that night, a rep was being interviewed by a TV station. The interviewer asked the rep, "How many men do you have?" Answer, 31 men. Interviewer, 31 men and only 2 men on the truck? Response, yes. In fact, we actually have 37 firefighters for taxpayer purposes. 31 of them are frontline firefighters. So he was right as far as 31, and I'm right as far as 37. The interviewer later on asked the same question, same response. My question would be, where is the rest of the men? We have 31 men, where are the rest of them? I know the answer. The interview never made TV. I'm only bringing this up here to help. It's been a problem for a long time. Don't sign a contract that doesn't reduce overtime. I don't know who has to negotiate it, who's responsible, but that's the only way you're going to reduce overtime. Thank you.
Could you just state your name for the record? They have to write it in the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I did. Al Urso, 73 River Street. Right across from Company 5.
Got it? Al Urso, 73 River Street. Okay, thank you, Mr. Urso. Are there any more public communications, any more fire department communications? All right, thank you. We'll move on with the meeting. Board communications, member to member. Town comments? Mr. Town Manager, anything? Okay, let's go right into our administrative business. We have 4 items. This is going to be rather quick. I'll take them all at once. I'll read them, and somebody could motion on them. We'll discuss them and see where we go. First one is an appropriation $100 to the police for program supplies. Second one, appropriation for $800 to youth services for a STEPS donation. Third one, $3,800 to police for special ops grant program. And the fourth one, $10,000 even to youth services smart recovery grant. Do I have a motion to approve all of those?
I'll
And
make
that-
a motion
Oh,
to approve
motion?
the agenda.
Second by Mr. Pocock. These are all things where the money's already been received. It's on the consent agenda. All we're doing is putting it to the line item so it could be spent. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Candace says an aye? Okay, carries five votes. Three administrative memos. Number 1, department transfer $10,000 even. The general fund utility cost, increased utilities. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to transfer.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Aye, carries 5-0. Thank you, Candace. Next one, department transfer, $80,400, fire department overtime.
I'll make a motion to approve the overtime transfer.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Last one, department transfer, $210, general fund planning for a training fee.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, any other business to come before the board? Okay, we'll look for our favorite motion at 7:57.
Make a motion to.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we adjourn at 7:57. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thanks, Candace. Have a good night.
Thank you, Candace.
Take care.
Bye.